Welcome to Maine Concerns, where our news team gives you a closer look at the events that happened around Maine this week.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Cindy Campbell. I hope you're enjoying this Memorial Weekend. It's the unofficial start of summer in Maine, and so there are plenty of people having warm weather fun, like boating. So we wanted to remind you of some basic boating safety tips. Here's an interview I did with Maine Warden Service Lieutenant Jason Luce about boating safety. So let's start with the most obvious as far as boating safety and life jackets. It really doesn't do you any good if it's laying in the boat.
It doesn't. So, state law requires that anybody 10 and under wear a life jacket. State law also mandates that if you're operating a personal watercraft or are being towed behind a boat on skis or a tube, that you be required to wear it. But the law requires that there be a wearable life jacket inside the vessel for everybody on board. And to your point, the life jacket doesn't do you any good if you're not wearing it. And a lot of times these incidents occur quickly, and everybody thinks that they're going to have time to put that life jacket on, after the incident happens, and probably not going to be able to.
Yeah.
So they make a variety of life jackets ranging from very uncomfortable to very comfortable. And, we as an agency mandate that all of our wardens wear a life jacket while they're on a boat. And we wear inflatable ones.
Right.
They're small, they're light, they're comfortable, and they work well.
Yeah, my husband and I fish, and we have a canoe. And I will admit, often didn't wear the life jackets because it's hard to fish in those things. So we got inflatable life jackets, and you don't even realize you're wearing it. You just kind of forget about it, and you have plenty of movement. I
oftentimes will get in my truck, and after I've been out on a boat, and look down and realize that I'm wearing my life jacket. So they are comfortable, and they're practical. I mean, like you said, you can put it on and you don't notice it. They don't get in the way. You can still cast your fishing rod when you're fishing. You can move around. So no, they work very well, and they cost a little more than the normal orange yoke life jackets that you see on a lot of boats, but they're comfortable.
Yeah,
now, having said that, those orange yoke style life jackets work the best. They're the most uncomfortable, but they work the best. Those ones will keep your head out of the water if you are unconscious. So, you give up a little bit for comfort.
Right. If you're driving a boat, always be aware of what's going on around you.
Yes. So be cognizant of your surroundings. Maine lakes and ponds are very rocky. So, first and foremost, know where you're going. Even before you go, tell somebody where you're going, where you're going to be, and when you plan on returning, and be cognizant of your surroundings. When we operate a motor vehicle, we have fog lines and center lines and yellow lines, and we know which direction we have to travel on. We have stop signs, and we have traffic control devices that tell us when we can go. We don't have those on the water. And so it's real important for you, first and foremost, just be cognizant of everything that's going on around you. There could be somebody on a stand-up paddleboard out there. There could be somebody swimming, and just be super aware of your surroundings.
And as someone who is often out there in a canoe, be aware of where your wake is going. If you're going too fast and there's someone in a canoe and you're going to be sending out some heavy wakes, they're going to be tipping back and forth. So maybe slow down a little bit.
Slow down a little bit, and I'm glad you brought up wakes because, as an operator of a boat, you're responsible for your wakes. And not only being responsible for your wakes when you're out in the middle of the lake, but keep in mind that the state of Maine has what's called a water safety zone. So anytime you're 200 feet or closer to shore, you have to operate your vessel at headway speed only.
Okay.
And headway speed means speed necessary to provide forward propulsion and maintain steerage. So there's no speed limit, just you have to be going super slow and be able to maintain your steerage and not create a wake.
Okay. All right. Before you leave, check the weather.
Yes. And on hot, humid days, thunderstorms can come up in a hurry, and winds can change, creating unsafe conditions on the water. But yes, check the weather, be responsible for knowing where you're going, and, when you see dark clouds coming across the sky, get to shore.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's also important to think about your own personal health. So, sunscreen and plenty of water to drink so that you are able to stay in control of that boat.
Excellent point. You're out in the sun all day. You become fatigued. There's glare on the water. So, keep all of those things in mind. stay hydrated and wear your sunscreen. Maybe minimize the effects of the heat when you're out there on the water.
Okay. And leave the alcohol maybe for the shore after you get done?
Exactly. So the state of Maine, operating a boat is the same as operating a motor vehicle. If you're over 21 and you have a BAC, blood alcohol content, of 0.08 or greater, you're going to be arrested and taken to jail. And we have zero tolerance for that. If you're under 21, you can't have any alcohol in your system. So leave the alcohol at home. Leave the alcohol back at the camp. Wait until you're done recreating on the water. Obviously, we don't want you to drink when you get back to the boat launch. Wait until you get home and someplace safe, and you're not going to have to operate any machinery.
Okay. Swimming behind a boat. If you're going to go out in the middle of the lake and go swimming, maybe stay away from the back of the boat because you can be dealing with carbon monoxide at that point.
Carbon monoxide. And not even swimming behind the boat, but a lot of times people will ride, behind the motor or on the back of the boat. And nationwide, this has been a problem. People will be just kind of moving along slowly on the lake, and for no reason, somebody will fall off the back of the boat into the water and drown. And carbon monoxide has been linked to numerous boating-related deaths for a long time.
Yeah.
So be very cognizant, and don't ride back there. Don't ride on the bow of the boat for the simple reason that if you fall off the bow of the boat, the operator does not have time to react to disengage that motor before you get run over.
Yeah. Never assume that you're going to be able to handle the situation.
Never. And nobody thinks that something bad is going to happen, right?
Right.
What's the last thing when you go out on a boat? You probably had a week at work, and you're getting a chance to go out and recreate and enjoy some of our beautiful bodies of water, enjoy the Maine outdoors, and nobody's thinking that something bad's going to happen. But it can happen in a split second. Things can change, and you probably aren't going to be prepared to react quick enough to avoid it.
Right. Jason, that's what I had. I assume more boating safety tips on the website?
Yep, check our website. There are lots of boating safety tips and a lot of boating etiquette advice. Again, be cognizant of the headway speed in your wake. Not only is it potentially unsafe to people, but your wakes, when you're 200 feet or closer to shore, can cause damage to the shoreline and private property. So, be responsible when you're out there, be courteous, and be safe.
All right. Is there anything I missed, Jason? Anything you'd like to add?
One thing that we recommend for people operating motorboats is that almost all outboard motors and recreational boats come equipped with an engine cutoff switch. And we recommend that people engage them. So they're usually on a tether cord. And the purpose of these engine cutoff switches is if the operator of the boat falls overboard, it'll cut the engine.
Okay.
We've seen it time and time again where the operator of a boat is on the boat by themselves, and they hit a wake, or for some reason they fall overboard, and then inevitably the boat will start to circle. Okay. And sometimes these incidents end up being fatal. Mm-hmm. And if they had simply attached that tether cord to a belt loop or to their life jacket when they fall off, that'll cut that engine and eliminate the risk of being run over by your own boat.
Okay, great advice.
So life jackets and engine cutoff switches, and don't overestimate your abilities to swim or operate a boat.
It's worth mentioning again that boaters need to be mindful of their wakes and obey the headway speed laws. Find more information on boating safety at mefishwildlife.com. Next, the Bureau of Highway Safety is reminding people to look before they lock. Check your car thoroughly before locking up and walking away to make sure you haven't forgotten a sleeping child in the back seat. Warm weather means heat stroke danger for children, elderly residents, and even pets. Here with more information about the Look Before You Lock campaign is Erica Davis with the Maine Bureau of Highway Safety. What is the Heat Stroke Prevention Program?
May 1st, 2023 is the National Heat Stroke Prevention Day, and ultimately this campaign focuses on the issue of heat stroke, leaving children unattended in motor vehicles, and ultimately that all hot car deaths are preventable. So we really want to encourage and urge parents and caregivers to learn about and share critical information regarding the dangers of leaving children alone in hot cars. And the Maine Bureau of Highway Safety encourages all parents and caregivers to never leave children alone in or around vehicles, even with the windows down.
Okay. I know one way this can happen is leaving a child in a car, but there's also the risk of gained access. What is that?
Yes. So more than half, over 58% of these hot car deaths within the U.S. occur by gained access at home. And that's usually while the car is parked in the driveway. So a busy parent or caregiver might unintentionally forget that a quiet or sleeping child is in the back of the vehicle, but the gained access is also when a vehicle is left unlocked and the child has then gained access into the vehicle, and then either there's a child lock and the child is not able to get out of the vehicle. And, if it's a hot day out, that can really lead to a very serious issue, a very serious problem, very fast as well.
Yeah, and parents may say, oh, my child would never go in and play in the car. But I remember as a kid, there were junk cars down behind my grandparents' house. We used to go down in the woods and play in them all the time and pretend to drive and whatever. And they were junk cars. I mean, the door locks didn't even work on those. But but it can be tempting for a kid to get in and say, hey, let's get in and pretend we're driving.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why we just really want to make sure that we're, spreading the awareness and the education regarding this and how important of an issue this is, and that we really want to make sure that parents and caregivers understand the risks associated with the gained access or with, forgetting your child in the back of a vehicle or, those types of situations.
I think a lot of people, when they hear about a child that got forgotten in the back of the car, they think, oh, what a terrible parent. But it's really not as difficult as you would think if you have a child, particularly sitting back too, right, who's being very quiet and you've got something else on your mind and you get out and just don't think about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah. A lot of people would think that they would never forget their child in the back, but it can happen to anyone. And, if parents or caregivers have busy schedules, lack of sleep, any change in their routine, it can distract us a lot easier than one would think. Obviously, thankfully, Maine is very fortunate to encounter very few of these horrific incidents, but there's still 942 incidents from 1998 that have occurred within the United States. So it's still something that we want to address and provide education on.
So you have the Look Before You Lock campaign, which includes some tips to help parents and caregivers avoid exposing a child to heat stroke in a car. Can you give us some of those tips?
Yeah, absolutely. So in order to prevent this, we would definitely recommend to make it a habit for parents and caregivers to look in the back seat every time that they exit the car. You can also set up a system to check the backseat of your car for your child every time you get out. So this could mean setting your cell phone or purse, gym bag, a briefcase, something that you would need to reach for once you leave your car, putting that in the back seat, and that'll help to make sure that you see the child, once you open the door to get them. We also recommend, never obviously leaving a child in a vehicle unattended ever, even for a short time period. And of course, always locking the car, putting your keys out of reach, and ask your daycare provider to call you within a few minutes if your child is late for daycare. And this is one that's actually very, very important and a great tip and advice for parents and caregivers that might drop their children off at daycare.
That's really true, because if you're distracted and it doesn't occur to you that, oh, I didn't stop by and drop my child off at daycare, you get to work, oh, I must have dropped him off, and you get out and just go. If the daycare calls and says, hey, where's your child? That's a great wake-up call, so that's a great tip.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how about if you're, for instance, in a parking lot and you notice that there is a child in a car unattended, what should you do? How should you react to that?
Yeah, so if you're a bystander and you see a child in a hot vehicle, just make sure that the child is okay and responsive first. If not, call 911 immediately, of course.
Yeah.
If the child, appears to be okay, try to locate the parents if there's two of you. If you're at, a Walmart or something, have the security management call for the car owner over the PA system.
Right.
And then, if the child is not responsive or appears to be in distress, obviously attempt to get them out of the car to assist the child. And that can mean even if you have to break a window. So in many states, and this includes Maine, we have Good Samaritan laws that protect people from lawsuits for getting involved to help a person in an emergency. So just please, if you do see a child in a car and they appear to be under distress, trying to get them out as fast as possible is the best way.
Right. What are the warning signs that a child may be suffering from heat stroke?
Yeah, so the warning signs to look for is red, hot, moist, or dry skin, no sweating, could be either a strong rapid pulse or a slow weak pulse, nausea, confusion. And ultimately, if a child exhibits any of these signs after being in a hot vehicle, you want to quickly spray the child with cool water or with a garden hose. And of course, call your 911 or your local emergency number immediately.
What you should not do, correct, is take your child and drop them into a cold bath or into an ice bath. Is that right?
Yes, that is true. Yep.
Too much of a shock to the system. So Did I read that there's an online course that can educate people about heat stroke prevention?
There is, yes. So if anyone is interested in learning more information about this, parents, caregivers, daycare providers, they can go to carseateducation.org, and there is a couple different general education courses on there, but they have specific ones for heat stroke prevention, and they have English and Spanish languages on there as well for the course. So definitely I recommend any parent or caregiver that's interested in wanting to learn more, definitely check out that website to take that online free course.
Okay. I would add that it's a good thing for grandparents to go in and take a look at, because as a grandparent, you're not used to having that child in the car, and it would be a lot easier to just kind of forget that they're there and I've got to get into this store and do something and forget the child is there. So an important course for grandparents as well.
Yes, absolutely. Great point.
So can people find more information about the Look Before You Lock campaign on the Bureau of Highway Safety Facebook page or website?
Yes. I would recommend, if anyone's interested in the heat stroke prevention campaign, to go to, this is NHTSA, which is NHTSA.gov, and then /campaign/heat stroke. And that is going to be the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. That is where they can find a lot of great information regarding heat stroke prevention. Of course, you can also go onto the Maine Bureau of Highway Safety website as well to find more information. Also more information about our different program areas that we cover, and one being child passenger safety, of course. So definitely, if anyone's interested in learning more, check out those websites.
Find more information on the Facebook page for the Maine Bureau of Highway Safety. I'm Cindy Campbell. I hope you enjoy your holiday weekend and stay safe.
Join us again next weekend for Maine Concerns with your Town Square Media News team.